There's no denying the UX371's sense of style. The body is made from dark matte aluminum and its edges are finished in a copper shade. The copper extends to the hinge and the off-center ASUS logo on the lid too. I found the build quality impressive too. The base barely moves and the display exhibits similar strength alongside robust, smooth hinge movement. It's a reassuring machine and it's hardly a heavyweight. It weighs 1.2 kilos and is only 14 mm thick. The left-hand edge has two USB-C ports that support future-proof Thunderbolt 4. The right is home to a full-size USB 3.2 Gen 1 port and an HDMI port. There's a 720p webcam that supports Windows Hello, and in the box you'll find audio and Ethernet adapters and a stylus. I'm disappointed there's no headphone jack, card reader or fingerprint reader though, and the webcam has no privacy shutter, only a keyboard shortcut to disable the camera. The ASUS faces plenty of competition from hybrids and conventional laptops. The Apple MacBook Air M1 and Dell XPS 13 are just two, with the latter sold as either a laptop or a convertible, while Microsoft's Surface Book 3 is another rival. The MacBook Air is heavier and thicker than the ASUS. The Dell offers similar dimensions, and the Surface is heavier and uses a detachable design. The only machine to beat the ASUS on the connectivity front is the Surface, which comes with two full-size USB ports, a headphone jack, and an SD card reader. The ZenBook's sunken keyboard serves up a decent 1.4mm of travel. The buttons are wide and finished in the copper shade found elsewhere on the device, with a bright white backlight. The layout is reasonable. There's a row of extra function buttons. The cursor keys are separated and the power button isn't on the keyboard. The keys strike a great balance between feeling crisp and comfortable. They're usable for hours without causing finger fatigue. They're quiet and accompanied by a trackpad that's wide, accurate, and with fast buttons. The trackpad has a smart extra feature too, a touch-sensitive NumberPad to make up for the lack of a physical one. This keyboard is just as good as anything you'll find on an Apple or Dell device, with the absence of a fingerprint reader, the only area where rivals outdo the ASUS. The ZenBook has a 13.3-inch OLED touchscreen with a 4K resolution, a fantastic specification. The density level of 331 ppi means that everything on this panel is luxuriously sharp. I used a colorimeter to test the ZenBook's panel and found the OLED display to deliver perfect contrast, which means the black shades here are deep and the peak brightness of 502 nits delivers huge vibrancy and nuance when rendering colors. That backlight is powerful enough for use indoors and outside too. The color temperature of 6622K is superb and means the panel is neither oversaturated nor washed out. The display renders more than 95% of the sRGB, Adobe RGB, and DCI P3 color gamuts, therefore handling every color space. The only downside is a delta E of 3.57, but that's no disaster. Colors remain accurate, but some panels are better. The ASUS OLED display exceeds rivals. It has more pixels than the Apple and the Surface, and the Dell is only available with an equivalent display if you spend at least $1,549. For day-to-day use, media viewing, and color-sensitive work, the ASUS ZenBook Flip S's screen is a winner. The top-notch display is joined by great speakers. They're louder than I expected from a laptop of this size, presenting a clear, well-defined mid-range with plenty of depth. The top end isn't too tinny, and there's even some bass. For media and music, they're good enough for daily duties. Intel's Tiger Lake architecture promises performance improvements, and the Core i7-1165G7 chip is among the best you can currently find in a laptop. The rest of the UX371 specification is reasonable. It includes 16GB of dual-channel memory, a 1TB SSD, dual-band Wi-Fi 6, and Intel's updated IrisXe graphics core. The ASUS has enough power to handle everyday computing. Whether it's web browsing, office applications, or a mix, it's always responsive and capable. It's undoubtedly helped by the SSD's solid read and write speeds of 3200 MB and 2836 MB, which ensures saving and loading data on the hard drive will be a speedy process. This laptop can also handle light photo editing and creative work. However, the CPU doesn't achieve its full potential, and laptops such as the Apple and Dell are better for tougher tasks. Don't expect much from this machine if you want to play games. In 3D Mark Time Spy, the IrisXe core scored 1440 points. That's around 500 points better than Intel's preceding CPUs, but this machine will only play low-end and casual games and will only deliver a small boost to graphical applications.